Welcome to UK Business Show, UK's premier business show where we feature business thought leaders, high achievers, and industry experts. Today's episode is brought to you by World Outsourcing Solutions Limited, a company that specializes in helping executive business owners with virtual assistant services and business growth systems. Here's your host, Yukai Kechidori.
Hey, welcome back to another very special episode. Let me ask you a question. Are you in business? Is it all going well for you? Maybe your answer is yes, or maybe your answer is no. But here's what I've discovered. Business success depends on doing a lot of things right. And among those things is relationships right. If you're doing your business not so well, it could be your relationship understanding on the way you're doing relationship is not proper. That is why today I'm bringing a special guest, Dr. Robin Buckley, to share with us and you, of course, what works when it comes to relationship. Before I introduce Dr. Robin Buckley, I want to introduce my co-host, Dennis. Dennis, thanks for joining us here.
Yukai, it's always a pleasure to be here. Thanks very much for inviting me.
Incredible. Robin, for those who are joining us for the first time, give us one sure way of making sure that your relationship or setting yourself up for success in any type of relationship, be it personal relationship or your business relationship. Just one quick strategy or key that you've seen that works over and over again.
Easy enough, UK. Thank you. It's the same as if you were starting a business. You wouldn't start a business without some kind of compass or North Star, but very few couples create a mission statement for their relationship. The mission statement, just like in business, helps to keep them united, moving in the same direction, and focused on where they want to get to. And it's essential not to just have it in their heads, but to write it down and keep it with them so they can refer to it in moments when they need to realign with what their mission is.
Oh, love that. Absolutely love that. We talk about this all the time in business, and I love it because you bring it in relationship as well. If it works in business, certainly it will work in your relationships.
Exactly.
That's awesome. Now, Dr. Robin Buckley has a PhD in clinical psychology from Hofstra University and is an executive coach, a relationship strategist, and a professional speaker. A priority coaching model uses business framework to help executives like you, Bill, and me, and business owners create strategic plans for achieving your career or your relationships. What a privilege to have you here, Robin. Share with us what is working today. Now, for those perhaps who are yet to come across your way, give us a snapshot of your journey to this point where you are helping executives, with these two core things.
Absolutely. So my background is traditional mental health because of my clinical psychology doctorate, and I would help couples through traditional therapy. And it was painful for them and painful for me because they would come in absolutely demoralized, thinking it was the last step before a divorce. And it was a constant rehashing of the past, something we can't change. They wouldn't focus because the model wasn't around. Where are you now and where do you want to get to? I also worked with a lot of executives who knew exactly what their strengths were around their careers and in their business lives. So I helped people start to apply their strengths in their business and career to their relationship. And what we found is it became an objective space. They could talk about the things that they do to manage a team well. And when we started applying the same strengths to how to manage their relationship well, it was a safer, more neutral platform for them to work from. So that's where I started to integrate my work in clinical psych, my work in executive coaching to create a safe model of couples coaching that wasn't a dig into the past. It was, where are you now? What are your strengths now? How can we use those strengths to improve the present? And now let's make a plan for your future.
Love that. And also you have a personal experience. Love for you to share with our audience today. Because that makes
bring that up. Yeah, I do agree. It's important. It makes me laugh every time. But I've been through 2 divorces. One, I married my college sweetheart and just assumed it would continue to be wonderful based on this really young perspective of a relationship. That didn't work because I had no plan. I then got married very quickly after that in a reactive way assuming that if I married someone completely opposite my first partner, that it would be better. Again, very little plan, not a lot of analysis of what I wanted and who I was at that point. That didn't work so well. Now I'm in my third, and I trust final marriage because it did start with a plan. I mean, granted, I married a man that I had known for 20 years. He was one of my best friends, and our plan evolved organically in our conversations as friends. So when we entered into the relationship, I already knew so much about what his vision was, what his mission was, what he thought about a relationship, how we resolved conflict, because we had conflict in our friendship. And it helped create that foundation. So my personal life dovetailed with my professional experience for me to say, okay, we had a plan and our marriage was built on a strong foundation. How can I help couples do that right from the beginning, so they don't have to go through the trial and error that a lot of people experience through divorce and remarriage?
Incredible. Dennis, any question from you?
Yeah, I'm just, was there like a sudden realization moment, or is it kind of over time you suddenly went, oh my God, there's the framework. Of course, I've been there. I guess, yeah, how did it feel when you suddenly went, we know how to do this in the workspace, why don't we do it at home?
It was kind of amazing. I kept talking, particularly to female executives, about what they were doing and their struggle with how they would have to, they felt like they had to shift when they walked through their home door and then shift back in their office door. And I kept saying to them, why? If you're good at doing something in one environment, why not generalize it? And they would look at me like a deer in the headlights, like, I don't know, why don't I do that? So the more we talked about it and the more they would get very often very emotional about their relationship struggles, I would pull them back and say, okay, let's stop talking about that. Let's talk about how you manage your team. Let's just shift to your career for a little while. And it would throw them off and it would shift them into that strategic way of thinking. Right. And then I would, pull the rug out and say, okay, how can you apply that with your partner or your kids, which I call collaterals? And they would be able to apply the strategy in that objective way and come up with much better approaches than they were when it was an emotional reaction.
Yeah, indeed. Success leaves clues. And someone once said, how you do anything is how you do everything. So if you found a way that works, you can take the same thought process and apply it in the relationship. I'm interested in finding out about the framework, Robin, that you use. And I know that there may be people who want to know about that. Walk us through that framework. What are the key components of the framework?
Yeah, so it's about a 10 to 12 session program, and couples can spread it out as they so choose. So when they start with me, we do start, as I said at the beginning of the show, with a mission statement and talking about that. And I love asking. I always assume someday I'll find a couple who actually has written down a mission statement and can refer to it. I haven't yet. In the 8 years that I've had this really structured approach, not once has that happened. And yet these couples know very well in their professional lives why their organizations have mission statements. So it starts there. And then we move on to talk about pain points. So it's not, again, just like in business, what is the pain point that's not allowing for the success, not allowing for the productivity, not allowing the business to get to the goal? Same thing in the relationship. What are the pain points that are a struggle? And I usually hold couples to talking about each member of the couple gets to choose one initially. And we focus on that because, again, many couples can come into coaching or therapy and have a list of issues that they want to address. But that's going to complicate things. Again, in business, you wouldn't try and tackle all the issues all at once. It gets too complicated. So I hold them to let's focus on one at a time. Then we develop key performance indicators, KPIs, around how to evaluate. Are we addressing the pain points? How are we starting to see progress on the pain points? Because it needs to be, in my opinion, operationalized. When couples come in and they're like, yeah, I think things are better. I'm like, what does that mean? In business, it wouldn't be like, yeah, I think we're achieving our goals. We want to know money. We'd want to know, employee retention, whatever the KPIs are around trying to hit those goals. Yeah. So it's a progress of having couples talk about their relationship just as they would a business. And the biggest question I get, UK, is what if someone isn't business minded? What if you have, a business person with maybe an educator coming in? I keep it at a level that these are not going to be the big, really in-depth, you don't have to go to Harvard Business School to do this program. And I make sure that everybody's on the same page. So I don't assume, regardless of the individual or couple's background, they know what I'm talking about when I say, for example, KPI. I make sure I explain it and say, this is how I see it. And tell me if you understand this, and if not, how I can make it clearer to you. So there's never a detriment for someone coming in if they don't have a business background, because they're going to get the same wording and education that maybe their business-minded partner will.
That's awesome. I love the simplicity of that. While you were talking, my mind went to a bit of my business, and I thought I would not even start a project without identifying what are the key performance indicators. It just would happen. Right. And I'm glad that if I can use the same principles in my relationship, I think certainly would take a shape.
Exactly. There are so many principles in business, things that we do and we accept so easily in our careers and our professional lives. And yet we don't, as you said earlier, generalize it to the benefit it could offer our relationship. And one of the other ones that I talk to couples a lot about is, when do you do your performance evaluations? And again, they look at me like I'm crazy. And I'm like, no, when do you sit down and talk about whether, how your relationship is going, if it's hitting its goals, if it's meeting the KPIs? And very often they'll say, oh, we go on dates. I'm like, no, dates are fun and romantic, and that emotional connection. This is a business meeting about your relationship, where you're sitting down, and I usually suggest at the beginning, at least once a month, to really talk about how are we doing, and how do we know we're either doing really well, or we're not meeting our goals. What are the actual concrete data and evidence of that? Don't tell me how you're feeling. That's not objective. I want evidence. So as couples progress, then maybe they might spread out their evaluation meetings to once a quarter. I don't think they should wait to an annual review, because a lot can happen in a year, but there's so much that business can offer a relationship.
Love that.
I guess what's coming up for me in this space is that if you think about how we learn about business, work relationships are very conscious. So we learn about work through a conscious process as adults, but we learn about relationships through a subconscious process as children.
Yes. Dennis, that's a great insight. Are you sure you don't have a doctorate in psychology? Because that is awesome.
So that's your challenge, isn't it? Trying to overlay your frameworks, your protocols. This is how you talk to people at work. This is what you can say. This is what you can't say. This is how we have a formal evaluation process. We have job descriptions. People know what they're supposed to be doing in general, right? I mean, there's a lot of, if you don't have a good job description, it's going to be hard to be a good employee, and it's going to be hard to be a good boss. Right. But in the home environment, where did we learn all that stuff from?
Right. And does it align with who we are as adults? And why, the pushback I get from some people is, but a relationship shouldn't be business. It shouldn't be work. It's not an arranged marriage, which I also don't have a problem with if it's consensual and people want that. But, and I say to them, I'm like, but why? And they're like, well, it's again about love and lust and sexual attraction. I'm like, cool. But if you don't have a plan, the love and lust is not going to maintain your relationship. And I use the analogy. I'm like, I love ice cream, really love ice cream, but I wouldn't start an ice cream business just because I love ice cream. I'd build in a plan. I'd make sure a team and processes were in place. And only then maybe my love of ice cream will be successful. Same thing in a relationship. I can love someone as I have in the past, but if I don't have a plan, that love is not going to be the thing that sustains that relationship.
Sure. And so you're talking about conscious awareness around what's going on.
Yeah.
But we all bring our own subconscious concepts of roles, and those aren't articulated. When you're on a date, you don't ask about, your parents, how do they talk to each other? What sort of roles do they have? Who runs the money, who runs this? We don't do that. And then we get into relationships, and then we find out, as you did, that actually we're not that aligned. We have different roles about what each partner should be doing, and different responsibilities, and how they should behave, and how they should talk to each other. And I guess that's the subconscious part that really becomes is the nub of people's beliefs and people's behaviors that's driving them. And what you're really challenging then is, identity. It's like, well, no, actually, in my household, this is what the man does, and this is what the woman does, and whatever kind of gender role you want to put over it.
Right.
So,
And I see it a
how do
lot
you bump up against that?
I see that a lot with the female clients that I work with, because they are taught, again, a lot of them are in leadership positions, and they're taught to be strong and independent. And it's breaking down, as you said, trying to help them understand that while they can generalize the things that they want between different environments, home and work, they can also separate it. They can be a leader in business, but go home and just want to not be a leader. And that's okay. So it's helping them. Actually, I use assessment, a couple different assessments, to help people understand what their value system is and who they really are from a personal level, as well as within a relationship. And then we, again, because I like data, I think data, it supports this idea of, we're not talking about these vague, abstract concepts. This is the data around who you are based on how you respond to these assessments. Now, how can we use this to your relationship to get to the success you want? So when you ask, how do I break that down? That's what I do, is I bring them back to data that has been collected right from the beginning of my work with a couple, so that we can help understand, it's okay to give up control here, or it's okay to take this on here. A couple I worked with, getting to your point of gender roles, in the assessment, the male in the couple, was a heterosexual couple, was astounded and then really relieved, because he was a CIO, a CEO of a very, very powerful company. And in his assessment, it came out that he really had this strong, nurturing persona that he didn't even really know about himself. And then when we started talking about it, he actually broke down crying, because he was like, all I want to do is spend more time with my kids. And I don't know how to rectify that because I'm in this powerful position. So it allowed he and his partner to have a conversation about, how do we have more time for him to tap into that really important side of his personality that he'd never allowed himself, or his roles had never allowed him to do. So.
Sure.
Fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. Bill, thanks for joining us. You may be wondering, like I am now, if perhaps you have a relationship and you don't know how to bring this conversation in. Robin, how can Bill and anyone listening get this conversation started? Maybe they recognize that something needs to change in their relationship, or have the assessment that you do, but just don't know how to get started. What's your advice?
Yeah, so UK, I can't say this works for everybody. I can never generalize like that. But I believe in directness in a relationship. When you're trying to be gentle around topics that might be challenging, I think it makes it more complicated. So very often I encourage couples to have that sit down conversation without the distraction of collateral. So lock yourself in a room and ask each other, do you want to be in this relationship? Now, most of the couples I work with are not at that end point, last ditch effort. They're just in a rut. And so they thankfully can answer each other, yeah, I do. And then ask them, are you as happy as you want to be? Are you as satisfied? Are you getting as much as you want out of this relationship? Again, the couples that tend to work with me, it's a no. How can we help each other? What can we do? What's one thing, starting with one thing I can do to support you and make the relationship better for you? So you ask your partner that. And sometimes you don't even have to ask them. You can think back to, and I love this exercise, I get couples to write down, what are the things you did at the beginning of the relationship that pulled your partner in, that you did deliberately to make your partner happy, to make your partner smile, whatever it is. Because over the time, in a lot of relationships, we stop doing those things. We get busy, we forget, we don't, whatever. We feel like, oh, we're married now. We don't have to do that kind of stuff. But what were those things that really meant so much at the beginning that you can apply again? So this isn't magic. Sometimes it's just doing the things that were successful at the beginning and reapplying them. But I love the conversation too. Is there something I can do better, differently, that would make this better for you? And then offering, if your partner doesn't ask the question back, and here's what I would really appreciate from you. Here's what I always loved that you did that somehow we've lost track of. So it's having these dynamic conversations. And one of the other strategies I encourage couples to do is 10 minutes. 10 minutes every day. And I call it a no kids zone because most of the couples I work with do have collaterals. And they shut themselves behind a door. And I'm very candid. I'm like, unless someone is bleeding or dismembered, nobody comes through that door for 10 minutes. That's all you're asking for, to connect. And there's no conversations about the kids. There's no conversations about anything other than the things that you would talk about on a date. That you show an interest in your partner and how their day was. It's not walking into the kitchen saying, oh, how you doing? Oh, good. How was your day? Oh, good. It's, tell me, what was the best part of your day? What was the hardest part? How can I help you with that? 10 minutes. If it goes longer, great. But 10 minutes to connect with each other. That's where it can start. And these conversations can start.
Absolutely love that. Thank you for sharing that. Any follow-up questions, Dennis, before we change the conversation to talk about how to set yourself up for success? Doesn't matter wherever you are.
So yeah, that's just so beautiful. I just wanted to share one small thing that we use in money coaching and couples money coaching in the healthy communication framework is the concept of explaining to your partner. A lot of the time we trigger each other without realizing, and one of the powerful things that we use is by saying, when you say this to me, or when you do this to me, this makes me feel X. This is how I feel. And very often people go, oh my God, I never realized I did that. I'm so sorry. And part of, as opposed to carrying the resentment and carrying whatever it is inside, just bringing that out to the surface and making it, putting it in the spotlight.
Yep. I love it. It sounds like you use a similar approach, Dennis, where it's candid, it's honest, because if you're just going to keep it inside, it's only going to fester.
Indeed. Awesome. Thank you, guys. Incredible. So how can, people set themselves up for success? Maybe, just maybe, things were not going so well and they want to, we may have touched some of that, but something that they can do consciously, maybe from now onwards, moving forward, that they can do.
Yeah, and I think we have talked about some of the key things that I think I know is important for couples. Making the time every day, 10 minutes, that's all it takes. Setting up a mission statement, making sure you do that, setting up regular business meetings to evaluate your relationship. But the thing that I think gets overlooked the most, if your audience does nothing else, UK, it's using their wonderful calendars. Everything else is on our calendars. Kids appointments, dentist appointments, when to bring the dog to the vet, when to bring the car in for registry, all the things they don't want to forget, when to meet with your boss and your team. But I'd love to know how many of your audience actually has notations on their calendar around their partner, and not just dates with other couples, but just, again, when in your day is your 10 minutes for your partner? Because if it's not on your calendar, it's not likely that it's going to happen. And even if it happens for like a good week or two, over time, it's going to get forgotten and discarded. So your calendar can be one of the most important tools in your relationship. And I'm going to go a little bit farther, UK. This is a little more.
Please do.
On every couple's calendar should be, when do they have sex? When in their week do they have to make the time to connect at that physical level? Whatever that means. I mean, that can mean, sex can mean anything to any couple. But when are they actually consciously making that time to be with their partner? Because again, when you look back at the beginning of most relationships, sex is an important way to connect, and it's a fun way to connect. And if nothing else, it's a stress reliever. And there's some big health benefits for men and women around actual sexual release. But over time, in most relationships, that fades away. It doesn't have to. I get couples who are like, oh, we've been married 20 years. It just happens. It doesn't have to. You can have sex as often as you want. It's making the time. So your calendar can actually have important things around your relationship to maintain your relationship, so things don't get forgotten, because you wouldn't let it happen in your professional life. So why are you letting it happen in your relationship?
Wow, amazing. We could go on, but I'm conscious of our time here together. And gosh, maybe we could have you come back again to talk about another aspect of relationship, because I love what we're talking about here today.
Thank you. I enjoy the work I do with couples. I love seeing couples just get to that new level of happiness that they thought was just gone.
Yeah,
that's awesome. In terms of the meeting itself, do you have any tips for when you say, okay, we're going to have a meeting, we're going to talk about a relationship, and we should say, do you have any tips around how to set that up for success?
Yes. Make an agenda. Again, just like you would in business, you wouldn't walk into the boardroom with no agenda. A lot of times I have couples create a Google Doc where they can add to it. So some couples meet once a week, some couples meet once a month, like I said, and some do once a quarter, but they can add to that Google Doc. And the beauty of that is that it doesn't have to be that, they're cooking dinner, one person is distracted by some other things and someone runs in the kitchen and says, oh, by the way, this thing you did the other day, that was really annoying. The Google Doc becomes, and that doesn't usually set up communication very well. The Google Doc becomes a place where they can put those thoughts, put those ideas that they want to get to in their business meeting. It doesn't interrupt the daily stream of the things that they're doing, but it also doesn't get forgotten. And then they sit down in that objective business meeting to have the conversation like, okay, I put this on here because this is what's going on. It also does the other aspect of sometimes couples will put something on that was irritating. They put it on the Google Doc and then they're like, you know what? I'm good. I was having an off day. I was actually just reacting. And it actually gives them space to process. Is this really an issue to discuss to make the business of their relationship better? Or was this just a passing thing that really was just trivial in retrospect?
Wow, this is amazing. Thank you so much. For those who wants to carry on learning from you or maybe take one of your courses, where can they find you?
So easy enough. My website is Dr. Robin Buckley, so drrobinbuckley.com. And then I'm all over social media, so Instagram, LinkedIn. My kids convinced me to be on TikTok, but I don't do any dancing or singing. It's just some of my videos and little snapshots. But I'm more than happy to talk to couples about this. And on my website, they can see a lot of the articles that I've written that explain what I do as well.
Incredible. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to know how to do relationship well, now you have somebody, an expert, who can show you exactly what you need to do. It's like we always say here, give it a go. Don't do this life alone. Find somebody who's done it and who is showing others what to do, and you too may just discover the secrets to the success that you want. Robin, I never want to finish without asking you, on a business level, what is it that you're doing today that is making your business grow or thrive despite everything that is happening, the economy downturn, or the complaints or whatever is happening in the world?
Yep. I think I really appreciate that question. So concrete, I'm putting out a book very soon about Marriage LLC, which is my marital program. I just opened up the uncoupled program for people who are single. That's another 10-week program, really quick and easy for people who don't want to do the trial and error dating. But on a personal level, UK, I work really hard to tell people, even if they don't end up working with me, even if for some reason my model, which I truly believe in, doesn't work for them, let me answer questions for you. Let me tell you the difference between therapy and coaching. Let me tell you the things to look for in whichever realm you're going into. Let me tell you about what you should look for in a coach, or what is important to look for in a therapist. I am all about helping people get to the right person for them. I hope it's me, because I know I do really good work, but if it's not, then at least be educated to find the professional that works best for you. So that makes, I think that comes across as my most authentic offering for individuals.
Outstanding. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks again for joining us here on the show. And again, if you've got any question, reach out to the team, or just go straight to the Robin Buckley, and you'll be able to get the assistance. And now I just wanted to let you know that we are working on a leadership book, which will be coming out sometime very soon. So if you want to learn from the amazing group of exceptional individual business owners that we've interviewed over the years that are going to be participating in this book, you may want to send us an email. We will be sending out a mail very soon for you to access that, so you know exactly what is happening. But I'm super excited about the book on leadership that will be coming out real soon. My dear friend Trevor Stockwell and Elaine are working very hard on that as well. And I think Alice was a part of the call recently just to make that happen. So I'm super excited about that. that. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, live well, live with passion. Know that the best is truly, truly yet to come. Thanks again, Robin and Dennis. You guys smashed it today.
Thank you for listening to UK Business Show. We will be back to bring you more episodes with success stories and advice straight from the experts. Want more? Check out www.ukbusinessshow.com. Get your free trial of our virtual assistant service today. Just visit www.worldoutsourcingsolutions.com. Quote WOS18 or send us an email at support@worldoutsourcingsolutions.com.